Welcome to the Wednesday Match Play, your weekly connection to the biggest and best brands in golf. On this show you will learn more about the latest golf fashion trends, hear from LPGA and PGA Tour players, get advice on planning your next golf getaway, and much more. Broadcasting live from Santa Rosa, California, please welcome your host, On the Tee, Ricky Potts.
Pete teaches at Walloon Lake Country Club, a private club located in northern Michigan. Pete is third generation at this club and has a lot to say about growing the game of golf. He spends a lot of time analyzing golf swings, coaching boys and girls teams, and won the state championship in 2017 and 18 with the Harbor Springs girls golf team. On this episode of the Wednesday Match Play podcast, you will learn more about Pete's teaching philosophy, his connection to womensgolf.com, his experience playing the old course, and his relationship with Tom Watson. This was a great conversation, and I really enjoyed having Pete on the show. Let's jump into it. Pete, welcome to the Wednesday Match Play podcast.
Thank you, Ricky. It's my pleasure. I'm sure honored to be your guest.
Well, I'm excited to learn more about you and your career. You got a lot of stuff going on. You're in an area of the country that is not where I know a lot of people from, but there's some really good golf up in your neck of the woods. You've got a lot of history at your club. You've got a lot of stuff going on. You're a popular person in the world of golf. You've been on some podcasts before, which we'll talk about. But let's start by giving us an overview of your career and why you picked golf.
Well, I picked golf. I'm a third-generation golf pro, and my grandfather swung up from Petoskey, Michigan at Petoskey Bayview Golf Club. He used to go to Miami in the winters back in the 20s, if you can believe that. So my dad caddied at Petoskey Bayview, and then I have two brothers that were also pros and really didn't know, never really figured I'd do anything else. I loved it. I started picking up balls for my dad when I was 5 years old at Harbor Point Golf Club in Harbor Springs. Loved every minute of it. So I've kind of been bred for it, I guess you could say.
It's really cool to have followed along a little bit with your history and the fact that, like you said, you're third generation and in that area of the country. So tell us where you are, the club that you're at. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but you're at a very unique part of the country, not a place that people would think there are a lot of golf courses, but the club you're at is very well known. It's a private club. So tell us a little bit about the area where you are.
Well, we're actually the capital of Northwest Michigan. We're right on Lake Michigan, close to where the two peninsulas meet. I'm about a half hour below on Lake Michigan where Petoskey is. My club is Walloon Lake Country Club, south side of Petoskey, which is the south side of Little Traverse Bay on Lake Michigan. I grew up on the north side of Little Traverse Bay in Harbor Springs. My dad was pro where I'm at now. When I grew up, he switched to Harbor Springs at Harbor Point Golf Club. And when he got older, he kind of did his last few years back at Walloon Lake Country Club. It's a very private club. Most of our members belong to a Midwestern city like Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, Indianapolis. They have a place in, usually most of them have a place in Florida or California, and they have a summer lake house up, which is where I'm at. We're open May 1st through mid-October, like most courses around here. We're a very private club.
So Bernard Sheridan is a good friend of mine and was a coach that I worked with when I lived in Naples, Florida. You were on his podcast, Breaking Par. How did you guys connect, and what was that interview all about?
I'm not real sure how he got my name. It's my 30th year in the PGA. I don't know if he caught wind of the guys that made the Quarter Century Club in the PGA. And there was some link about he knew someone with my last name from Pennsylvania, I think where he was from. Then we just got to chatting, and he found out that I used to teach as a young man also in Naples, Florida. And I kind of went back and forth up here for a short summer. And it is, we're up north here. So I was glad to get to Naples, Florida in that time. So we kind of hit it off that way, I think, Ricky.
Well, the season in Naples is about 4 months long, so it's January through April, and then that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I went down there mid to late October, and I left right around May 1st. Fairly busy. The crazy time was definitely January, February, March, half of April. That's for sure.
So when you were on his podcast, that was his episode number 141. So this is really crazy, but not at all planned. But this is episode number 141 of the Wednesday Match Play podcast. So I think that you and I should go buy a lottery ticket or something.
I think that's the first thing I'm going to do, and it's my birthday tomorrow, so I think I'm actually going to get that done first thing in the morning.
You are destined to win the multi-millions. I'm telling you, that is crazy.
That's crazy.
So tell me a little bit more about womensgolf.com and your affiliation with that.
Well, I started out, again, these internet things are popping up. There was a Pro Golf Now. Beth was the editor there, and she kind of contacted me and said, I noticed you have a history in golf. Would you like to write for us? And I enjoyed that. But it got to the point where I couldn't do it, an article every week. I did a little series or little videos with my daughter Grace, who made All-State as a high school golfer, and Women's Golf commented on it and said, hey, we're searching for instructors that have a passion for women's golf or keeping females in the game. And I said, I definitely do. And we've just hit it off real well. I analyze a lot of the the LPGA tour swings for them right now. They said it's a hit and it's very popular. And I sure enjoy doing it. That's how that started.
This world just keeps getting smaller. So, Beth, we became really good friends through social media. I hosted for the longest time a annual golf tournament, and then she actually flew to Naples and played in that tournament last year. And it was just so much fun to just spend time with her. She is a hoot. I played golf with her. We had a couple of dinners together, and just literally, the golf world is so small. It
is small. Wow. I thought the world of her. I hated to leave Pro Golf Now. I think she's moved on. I noticed to other sites. And I think she's actually like a professor or a doctor of English. So if you ever need someone to edit, boy, she was the one.
She never told me that, but I'm a blogger. So maybe I should become better friends with her. So it looks like you spent some time in Arizona recently. I absolutely love Papago Golf Course. I know you played there. You played Troon North, which is the flagship of Troon. Where else did you play, and how much time did you spend in Scottsdale?
Well, I spend, my wife's a school teacher, and this is her last year before we retire, and my daughter's in grad school out there learning how to be a physician assistant. So I've also played at Arrowhead, the club at Arrowhead. It's an Arnold Palmer track up in northwest Phoenix, and I did get to play Paradise Valley, with one of my members, which I absolutely love that place as well. I also played a place called Arizona Country Club. I love Phoenix. It's, imagine a guy that got used to Naples and then got kind of thrown back in the cold snow up here. I just love to get out of here and be warm. And I really like hiking around Arizona. We hike in the morning and I'd play golf in the afternoon, kind of at the best of both worlds.
So I'm originally from Indiana. I spent 6 years in Scottsdale, 3 years in Naples. Now I'm in Sonoma County in California, and it is the coldest I have been in about a decade. So I'm not used to that. So I can relate to you a little bit. I mean, it doesn't snow here. 55 is cold for me, but it snows a lot where you live. So how do you stay busy in the winter?
Well, we do have a place in town. A good friend of mine, about 7 years ago, when I started coaching the two high school teams in the winter, opened up a 3-bay simulator. It's called Shot Makers. And that's just been unbelievably busy, especially with the kids. And I kind of attract kids from the whole area. I think there's 7 different communities around. We call it the tip of the mitt, the lower peninsula in Michigan. They'll travel 40, 45 minutes and religiously make their appointments. So that's kind of been a blessing to have that simulator to keep me going. I'm not really much of an ice skater, snowmobile, or skier, so I'm grateful to turn to the simulators in the winter.
So you mentioned that a little bit. You coach both boys and girls teams. I know that this is a hard question to answer, but what are some of the biggest differences as a coach in the golf swing between males and females?
Oh, that's kind of hard to say. The girls are probably more literate at doing exactly what I tell them and get their form down to produce the distance, where the boys, it takes a while to tone them down from just raw, swinging as hard as they can and believing in the form that will produce that distance for them, more effortlessly. I think that the girls are more into form, and the boys are just toning down that raw power and turning it into good fundamental form.
So the club that you're at looks awesome. I mean, you mentioned that it's a private facility. It's an exclusive club. Tell me more about the course, some of the members, and what the experience is like there.
Oh, I love it. It's right on Walloon Lake, which I hear and I believe is the most expensive lake in Michigan. So it's full of executives. And all these years that I've worked at private clubs, I've learned so much from these executives, the car industry, or you name it, any industry you can think of. And they could go anywhere they want. And it's really beautiful up here. There's so many lakes, and I guess you're never more than 5 minutes from a river or a inland lake or the Great Lakes themselves. So I can see why they like it up here. There's a lot of steep hills. It's the best skiing in the Midwest. And so we're a very private club. What's really neat is on any given day, half of our people come by boat. We have a good big dock system down there. So I have, I have to watch the bag drop in the parking lot from the road, as well as the bag drop from the dock. So it's really unique place with views of the lake. And I'm sure that's why they love it. They come up here to have a nice, cool summer because, again, they're from a Midwestern city where it gets pretty hot, St. Louis or Indianapolis or even Detroit, Chicago. So I know they enjoy it up here.
Speaking of your members, Tom Watson was a member at your club at one time. When he was a member, your dad, talking about the 3 generations, was the head golf professional. Sounds like that the club was a special place to him and to you and your family. Do you have any good memories of Tom, and does he come back to the property and visit?
Yes, I have good memories. My dad was indeed here when Tom won the club championship in 1964. He beat his dad in sudden death, so that was quite a story. Tom continued to come up here for years, usually in a fishing trip as well as golf with his dad, Ray. And one of my favorite memories was back in the mid to late 70s when Tom was beating the world. He would beat us to work, and my dad got to work early. He taught all day long, and there's Tom down there in the range practicing. And when we left, he was still there practicing, but he always had my brother and I down there, and he would practice from some of the worst divots I've ever seen. Terrible lies, just striping 3 irons. He'd say, I'll hit 10 fades and 10 draws. You boys go out there and pick it up. And, they were within like a 15-foot circle. It was just unbelievable. And we have our Watson Cup member guest named after Tom, which he supported with welcoming letters. He even wrote letters to the flight winners for years. So we just think the world of Tom Watson. He's been great to our family. And back in the day, I played a little bit with his dad, and my dad and his dad played the most golf together. And my dad would cart Tom around to junior tournaments and things back in the day. So it's a special memory with Tom Watson. His name is right on the wall for the club championship, right below his dad's name in 1963. So that's really special.
That's cool to be able to have that history with such an iconic name in the game of golf. So
Yeah,
I really
sure.
appreciate that. And that's an exciting thing that I'm sure that you have to experience every time you're at the club.
Oh, yes. He's very popular here. I can tell you that. And like I said, he's in touch with us every year, right? That nice letter. And it's touching. Like this year he wrote, "Hey, welcome to the Watson Cup, the 12th annual Watson Cup. I have great memories of playing with Eddie Kelbel when I was a boy. It almost brings a tear to my eye when he mentions my dad. I think he's done it 3 times out of his 11 or 12 welcoming letters. So it's really special.
I see that you recently played the Old Course, hands down the best golf experience that I've ever had. What was your experience like, and did you happen to have a dram of scotch at the Jigger Inn after your round?
I did indeed have several beers at the Jigger Inn, and it was really special. I did go over there with my wife, who doesn't play, but my daughter, who was an all-state golfer in high school, went with me. And we played together. We got paired up with another guy from Scotland, and we got a we all shared a caddy, and so we just had, we had a room overlooking the old course, and I'm working right now on trying to get back a year from October. I had such a great time. It's just something else. The whole town, the whole experience.
There are a lot of different training aids available. Do you use any when you teach, and if so, which ones?
Oh, I like the, what do you call it? The inside attack, little piece of foam down there where you have to swing under. My alignment sticks, I use them to align, but I'll also prop them in the ground for swing plane. I do a lot of that. I use putting mirrors, putting gates. I like the impact bag to teach people how to swing inside out. And that's all I can think of right now. I do like using props. I think it gives feedback to people, even when you're not there.
Hey there, it's Gabe Aloisi from Private Club Radio. If you are in the private club business, meaning you're a manager, you're a membership director, you sit on the board of directors, and you want to be entertained and educated, we have a weekly show on Mondays here on the Golf Radio Network. It's called Private Club Radio, and it's just for you. You can give it a listen over at privateclubradio.com or subscribe wherever podcasts are heard.
It looks like you're a member of the exclusive Top Button Club. Names like Bill O'Brien, Bubba Watson, J.C. Wright come to name. I'm a member of this club, and it feels my button's buttoned right now. Do you always button your golf shirt to the top? And just so you know, this is a pretty prestigious club that you're involved with here.
I do, and the reason I do that is I did teach quite a bit when I was a young man after I left the area to teach in Naples, Florida, and I would get a real bad burn because I taught all day long. At one point at a pro-am or something, I saw a pro with his button all the way up, and I thought, you know what? That'll save me a lot of grief. So that's how that started. I don't have a burn there anymore, and it's comfortable for me, and so I'm enjoying being a member of that exclusive club.
That is incredible, and I love the story of why people do it and the way I do it. Well, there's a button there, so I'm going to button it. So that's the way that I justify it. So that's
you
awesome.
Go.
Now, you coach the Harbor Springs girls golf team. They were state champs in 2017 and 2018. Chances are good that they're going to make it a three-peat this year. What do you think?
Well, we lost 2 all-staters, so that's going to be awful tough. But I have a special group of girls. They're just working their fannies off, so we'll see. I never like to say never. It's unlikely when you lose 2 all-staters, and I lost another regular top 5 the year before that. You never say never. But I like our chances. We're rebuilding the boys right now, and they look good. I even like to start kids as managers where they're 6th, 7th grade. Then we can really make a golfer out of them by the time they're done. So it's a special thing to me. My brother, oldest late brother, started the program in Harbor Springs. Then my dad coached it as well when he was a pro. I really, in their honor, I'm just going to do the best I can. And we've had a lot of success, and I'm looking forward to this year.
My high school career was awesome. I just loved my coach. I have so many memories of tournaments and the travel and the whole 9 yards, and I just really respect that. And hopefully that one day in my career, I'm not a golf pro, but I would love to coach a team or assist with coaching a team, high school or college. I just think that'd be a lot of fun to be a mentor to those players as they're growing and going through their youth.
I'm sure you would love it, and the communities need it. We're having for as popular as golf is up here in Northwest Michigan, it's the girls. Every little school has a boys team, which I'm tickled about, but it's hard to keep these schools keeping girls golf. And that's why it's kind of neat in the winter. They all kind of gravitate to our teaching at Shot Makers. And I work with a really nice friend of mine. His name's Sean Bazilla, who's now the pro at Harbor Point, where I grew up, where my dad was pro at. And he's a big help in the winter. So we're keeping them in there. So far, we even had a couple of schools add girls golf. So we'll stay at it.
Tiger won the Masters this year. It still doesn't even feel real. Probably the biggest news story in golf in as long as I can remember. I ask this question on every episode of this show. Do you think he breaks Jack's record? Why or why not?
Gosh, for a while I thought he would not, just because of all those injuries, and they're significant and numerous. But now that he's won the Masters, and he looks, he's obviously in tip-top shape. How many has he got to go, Rick? He's just about.
So he's at 15, so 16, 17, 18, and then he's got to get, for Johnny Miller's perspective, he's going to have to win 4 or 5 more as far as that's concerned, because even if he can't tie the record. Don't tie it. If you're going to tie it, don't win any more, because tying it is not good enough.
I'll say I think he can now. I don't know if we will or not, but I think it is possible, where maybe a couple months ago I didn't. But I respect him. He just looked like he's ripped. He's in the best possible shape he can be. His distance is still pretty good. And, man, he smelt an opening there, and he went for it. So,
well, and in Augusta this year, he didn't play very good on Saturday, and he played pretty poorly on Sunday. I mean, he had 4 bogeys on Sunday and still managed to win. Now, I think a little bit of that is the fact that he was in the heads of all of the guys that were at the top of the leaderboard. There are multiple times when Francesco was hitting tee shots, Tiger is basically standing in front of him. Like, I mean, that's on purpose. I get it. But he gets in your head, and I'm sorry, he's the greatest player of all time, in my opinion. And when Tiger's near the lead or in the lead on Sunday, you're playing for second place.
Yeah, that was interesting to watch, kind of the field come back to him rather than him, jump out ahead. And I thought, wow, he can win that way too. So he does have that advantage. They know he's right there, and so that was a neat thing to watch. It was neat to watch that way rather than have him birdie. He just kind of held and let them kind of collapse around him. So,
and he had never won a major championship not being tied for the lead or in the lead on Sunday. So that was the first time, and that's saying something for those future wins. That, I mean, this year alone, he's got Bethpage that he's won at. He's got Pebble that he can't. I mean, he's won there 5 or 6 times, over the course of his career. So he's got an opportunity to win 1 or 2 more, maybe even this year.
This year. I think you're right. I absolutely think you're right. I hope he does.
What's next for you in your career? I mean, you've got a lot of stuff going on there, whether you're inside on a simulator, you're outside at this club, you're teaching, you've got coaching boys and girls. Like, what's next for you? I mean, you're a busy guy, and I'm just excited to continue following you on Twitter and seeing where your career goes. But what's in the immediate future for you and your career?
Well, I'm going to go another for at least 5 years at Walloon Lake Country Club, and I may coach for just a few more years than that. I'm going to look into, since my wife's a teacher and she's retiring, I would kind of like to get into a place like Florida or Arizona that, in a perfect world, would need a little teaching help for the busy winter months. That would probably make my, a dream come true for me. I would actually leave my cold area in the simulators to do that if something worked out that way. So that's kind of the immediate future. And I hope to get back to, like I said, St. Andrews. I hope to take my members over there a year from late October. And but no immediate plans to get out of golf or anything. I turn 55 tomorrow. So I'm still a young guy in my mind, and we'll keep at it for a while.
Oh, you're just rounding first. 55 is the new 35.
That's right.
In golf, the 19th hole is a slang term for a bar or a restaurant on or near the golf course, very often in the clubhouse itself. This edition of the 19th hole is presented by Le École number 41, a family-owned artisan winery located in Walla Walla, Washington. Tonight, I am drinking a bottle of their 2016 Syrah. This wine is dark, robust, has a ton of spice, full-bodied, and I'm getting blackberries, peppercorns, and almost like a licorice note on the finish. This wine is delicious. Pete, what is your favorite 19th hole, and what are you drinking?
Well, my favorite 19 hole would be one of 2 places. The Barrelback is a restaurant right on beautiful Walloon Lake. You can ride right up to it by boat, just like you can Walloon Lake Country Club. So that's one of my favorite spots. Then growing up in Harbor Springs, Bar Harbor is on one side of the street, and you cross Bay Street, then you're at the pier. Again, you could take a boat right up to the pier. So they're very unique spots, and I had to narrow it down to 3, Ricky.
It's got to be tough. I mean, I don't know what is in that part of the world. The furthest north I've been in Michigan is Forest Dunes, which isn't super far from where you are. It was a former Troon property. Spent a long weekend up there playing golf. Funny enough, Donnie Fisher, who was the general manager at the time, remains a good friend of mine. And then another gentleman who's coming on this show in a few weeks was the general manager there right after Donnie. And it's just, again, the golf business is so small. So it's just cool to know that if you've been to Forest Dunes, you know that it's literally in the middle of absolute nowhere. So you have 9 miles outside of cell phone service.
Right. That's kind of unique about that place. It isn't too far away, probably an hour and a half south. And what's really neat is what do they have that place called the Loop, where you can actually play the course front and back backwards. You know.
That's a newer thing that they've added, and I was there many years ago, so it was before that was added. But I've only played a handful of courses that have an actual 19th hole, not the 19th hole that's the bar that we were just referencing, but they have a 19th hole that's got a bunker in the middle of the green, and it's just awesome to just finish 18 and settle bets, or just to have one more chance to make a hole-in-one or another shot at glory. So it's one of the only courses that I've ever played that has an actual 19th hole.
Yeah, it's an awesome spot. The fire pits, you can really kick back after you're around there, and I love it over there. And that's a little more inland. And like I said, around here, you're never more than 5 minutes from a river, or we have a ton of lakes, or one of the Great Lakes themselves. So it's pretty neat up here. I think you'd love it. You're always welcome if you're ever in my neck of the woods, I can tell you that.
Well, it's a long flight from where I am now, but who knows where I'll be next. And I appreciate that invite. And I know Forest Dunes area, and I literally remember when Donnie said, you're going to turn right, and then you won't have cell phone service until you leave. And he wasn't kidding.
That's true.
Pete, thank you again for coming on the show. This has been fantastic. It was great learning more about you and your history at Walloon Lake and your passion for women's golf and growing in the game of golf with juniors. Please stay in touch. I'm going to be following along on Twitter, which is where we first connected, and I look forward to you bringing home another state championship soon.
Well, thank you so much, and you're always welcome here. Thank you very much. I'm honored. Take care, Ricky.
That puts this installment of the Wednesday Match Play podcast in the books. But we'll be back next week for another exciting episode of the show.